this is where I use my micro needle roller. It's got pretty tiny needles. You roll it gently on top of the vinyl that's attached to your cup, and it creates this series of micro punctures. I found this was easier for me to work with and a little more reliable than sandpaper or steel wool, because I have a tendency to be kind of heavy-handed with that stuff, and I would tear the finer lines of my stencil. So I just go up and down, across, diagonal, until I'm satisfied. And that's it. All right. So now we're placing a fine line of adhesive over the vinyl. And then we're going to place our rhinestones on top, pressing down gently, forcing that adhesive through the micro holes in the vinyl down into the cup as well, or onto the cup, I should say, creating that sort of mesh network of adhesive for stability. Take your time. I know there are folks out there who can do straight lines right out of the gate. I am not fortunate enough to be one of those people, so I nudge and I zhuzh and I get it straight to my liking. And frankly, I am a firm believer that's all that is expected. Do to your liking. And this is your work. This is your time spent. Just keep placing down. Sometimes you'll have to shift the size of the stone. One might be too big. You're like, oh, I need something smaller. Just kick that stone out. Put the smaller one in. Or a larger one, whatever you see fit, following the natural line of the font. And you'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to straighten your stones. Check your work as you go. Take your time. If something doesn't work right, kick the stone out, replace it. You want to start over again, you can totally do that. You can remove all your stones while the adhesive is wet, and then either take a baby wipe or a Q-tip with a little bit of alcohol and just wipe over your vinyl gently to remove any extra adhesive. Okay, so now that we've got the end done, we're going to look at the A. This is an enclosed area. A's, E's, O's are generally the letters that I fill before I outline with the rhinestones. This allows me to fill them with ease, and then I can work the stones around them to continue on with the name or the wording. You don't have to put the same size stone. I like using, depending on the design, this particular design, I'm using crystal AB for the main stone of the cup. So that's what I'm filling the A with. And then I'll take my peacock stones and work them around the A. And again, I nudge, I zhuzh, I take my time, and I work the stones around the letter. Everything's a little bit wet, which is good because it allows me to push stones around as I need to. And just take your time. It's sort of like, it is coloring, except that you're coloring with glass circles and glue. But I don't know. It's pretty straightforward. I like to fill in first. It gives me less headaches down the road. Everyone's a little different. This is where you start to make your choices and refine your work based off of what makes you comfortable. There's no rule. There's just, hey, I found this easier. Okay. Just placing different stones to complete the eye. All right, so we went ahead and completed our name. I wasn't going to bore you with every single letter. Right now, what we're doing is outlining. Our stones are placed on our vinyl, and I wanted to outline the name to give it a little pop, to give it a little extra definition. I prefer to use lighter stones when I have a darker stone or a really bold color stone. I'll use white. I believe these are SS3s. They might be SS6. I apologize, I can't remember. You'll choose what's right for you. I think these are 6s, size 6 stones. And you just place them as best you can around your lettering. You don't have to worry about going inside the loops of A's or Y's or O's or E's. You're just kind of giving it an outline to help define the lettering. Take your time. You'll note that these will not fit in the crevice between the blue stones. That's okay. Just try and line them up evenly. Some areas they're gonna hug those stones all nice and neat. Some areas are gonna sort of float, around the outside. As you go along, you will figure out what's best for you, that particular font, the style you're going after. It's wide open. Just take your time, use a little adhesive at a time. Don't worry about outlining the whole letter or the whole name in one go. Liquid fusion has a tendency to dry pretty quickly. Again, it's not like, what's that stuff? Super glue or Gorilla Glue. It stays wet for a little longer than that. You can rub it off. But I find that doing an inch or two at a time at most works for me. It allows me to work in smaller areas and control that smaller area better. Okay, so here we're going to set our first row up. I'm a lefty, so this may look upside down to you, but this is how I need to work. You create a fine line, or you place a fine line of adhesive and place your stones, and you butt them up against the masking tape. Masking tape is going to help you achieve a straight first row, which will help you create straight rows subsequently as you move down the cup. Take your time. Move things around as you need to. You don't want your stone going over the tape. And you don't want to push your stone so firmly against the tape that the tape starts to dent, because that is the straight edge that you are relying on to make your first row straight and even. Take your time and just work around the cut. Okay, so we zoomed in here a little bit so I can see what I'm doing while I'm talking, and this should give you a more honest point of view. I'm on my last section. I know this is not going to fit my final stone. I quietly curse under my breath, and then I remind myself I can judge these stones around, creating an even space. So I'm just going to go back and forth, and I will do this until I'm satisfied. Back and forth, making sure the spaces are even. Trust the process. Once you get this row to your liking, the subsequent rows will fall into place, and you will not see these gaps. If you've made them even, just try and space everything out evenly. Those last 10 or so stones, you'll be okay. This is where I mark the first stone I laid down. I like to know where that is, and I keep forgetting to do it for our tutorials because I'm bananas, I guess. Normally I just take a Sharpie, mark a dot. I want to know the stone that has the driest adhesive behind it so I don't like try knocking that around and stick with the stones that are wet. I mop up with my fingers. I'll mop up with that tube at the end of my stone picker, as you see here. Just go through, make sure everything is touching the tape evenly, not going over the tape. Checking each one. Everything's in place. This is just, making sure my little babies are touching the tape. This is your first row. Very, very special and very important, I guess. And you'll do this. And this is part of it. And once you're satisfied with that first row, let it dry. Let it dry. You want it nice and dry.